Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome back to our watch club for Marvel's Miss Marvel. If you have lived as long as I have, lost what I have, you'll learn to find beauty in the pieces. Welcome to Watch Club. My name is Nate, and this is our Watch Club for Miss Marvel, Episode 4, titled Seeing Red, directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. If you're joining us for the first time, well, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series, kind of like a book club, but way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this series and the MCU in general, so if you haven't watched this week's episode yet, be sure to do so, and then come right back in a snap. Now, before we all depart on a plane to Karachi, let me introduce you to my cosmic besties who are joining me today. First up, you can rub his lamp, but the only wish he'll grant you is some more brown Jovi. He's Justin the Jolly Gin Lawrence.
What's Brown Jovi?
That's the cover band.
That's the cover band, man, from last week. Come on.
Yeah.
To be fair, this was the intro I wrote for you last week, and then you bailed on us, so there you go.
Right.
I still wanted to utilize it. And, you might have already heard his cosmic voice. He's my cosmic brother from another universe's mother. He's the dastardly, daring, and deadly deviant Darcy Hudson.
Hello.
Stoked to have both of you on. Justin, we finally get you on this watch club for Miss Marvel. Yeah. It's like we were, I took some time away from the Obi-Wan Watch Club, which you so valiantly took the mantle of hosting, and now you're here. It's stoked to have you on. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on Miss Marvel. How have you been enjoying the series so far?
I've been really enjoying it. I have to say, I if you've listened to the spoiler-free review, I was all positive right from the top. I gave the first two episodes 5 out of 5 because they did such a good job of just setting the tone and striking a balance between the origin story and the excitement around the introduction of a new hero, while also interjecting some really great culturally relevant material that helps build out the background of who Kamala Khan is, because her cultural identity is so intrinsically tied to who she is and how she defines herself as a hero. So that rhythm and that beat has continued from 1, 2, 3 all the way to 4. We've gotten these very rich cultural tones to each of these episodes that help make it far more interesting than any of the threats that are actually going on in this series.
We're going to get into that.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. But I definitely think that this is the strength of the show is the origin story, is the mythology and the mystery behind Ms. Marvel and building her out to be significant in the MCU with those real strong cultural beats. So I think the show is a huge success, and I've been enjoying it thoroughly.
Yeah, man, I think this episode, you're right, does a phenomenal job at showing some of the strongest of those moments. But before we get into the episode, we see Kamala and I, just so you guys know, share the same favorite airplane drink, Canada Dry, which is one of the awesome references to Aman Vellani's Canadian roots. I wanted to ask both of you, what is your airplane drink of choice?
Just water for me. I always fill my bottle up before I get on the plane, and that's usually my go-to. At least finish a big bottle of water.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm gonna be boring too and say water, because that's usually what I go with. I'm always the water guy. So
for me, dude, Canada Dry. The thing is about Canada Dry, obviously, it's well known on the airplane that it helps your stomach and things like that, right? Because of I don't even know if there's ginger in it, but I think it's just the bubbles or whatever.
It's made with real ginger. That's what
it's made with real ginger.
It's got real ginger.
It says on the can, man.
But I thought real ginger was a trademarked thing that they call real ginger. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I know that something about the cabin pressure makes it more crisp. Canada Dry on an airplane specifically is my favorite drink of all time. In a plastic cup filled with ice, dude. There's nothing better.
I don't know.
There's nothing better.
Canada Dry, I'm sure with like a lot of people in ginger ale, just makes me think of when I was younger and sick, and so it just takes me to a bad place mentally. So I always tend to stay away from the Canada Dry myself.
I think it also has to do with the fact that like I would enjoy it usually when I'm traveling. So for me, maybe it's bringing me back to those moments of escaping my everyday.
Food has a way of doing that, so yeah.
That's Nate's nickname, Canada Dry.
Canada Dry.
You know, he's all he's all about that. Like, can I get a what do you call it, Nate? The cranberry ginger ale
Okay,
mix?
well, if we're gonna officially announce this on the podcast, just so everyone's aware, a Grange Branche is ginger ale. A Crange Branche is Canada Dry, or sorry, ginger ale with cranberry. And a L'Orange Branche is orange juice. That's a breakfast version, orange juice and ginger ale. And then you've got Pomme de Branche, which is just nice on a fall evening, a little bit of apple cider with your ginger ale. Anyways, now that you have all those recipes, before we enter a secret passageway in the back of a Chinese restaurant in the middle of Pakistan, let's get into this week's episode. So after the previously on, which is written in English and in Urdu, by the way, we actually start this week's episode off with the Marvel fanfare over a dope track called Summer Nights by Raginder featuring Wise Child. And look him up, because I actually went on Twitter and I saw he posted a really heartfelt video of him reacting to his song playing over the intro. Like, he's you know, he knew that they were going to use his song, but they didn't know it was going to be over the Marvel fanfare, which you got to imagine as a musical artist is freaking awesome.
That's a big moment for sure. Yeah,
it was so good. So definitely check him out. Check out his music. Okay, and then we see Kamala and her mom on the airplane heading to Karachi, and they're arguing basically over top of a stranger. Which was hilarious, but Muniba asks for a truce for now so that they don't upset her mother. They arrive and are instantly greeted by Kamala's cousins Zainab and Oais, and of course Kamala's grandmother Sana. They head back to Sana's home, which is bigger than Kamala remembers, and Kamala accidentally walks into Sana's art studio, where she shows her a painting of Aisha and explains that she sent the bangle to Kamala because she's a jinn, and that the last time the bangle was used, it was used to save her life the day she left India during the partition. She reminds her that she needed to be here to figure out what exactly is going on. All right, so let's hang tight there. First, guys, what did we think of this opener? What did we think of Karachi? And most importantly, what did we think of Kamala's grandmother?
As I was mentioning, the cultural references throughout, this very much tied to her identity and us learning more about Kamala Khan. I loved how we kind of just get plopped into the situation when they're on their way to Karachi and then immediately are just absorbed by this sort of vibrant culture. And, you know, the introduction of Karachi as being sort of rooted to Kamala's identity, I think you get that immediate hit, that sort of almost culture shock to a certain degree.
Oh yeah, she's like shocked by that.
Absolutely, because, you know, we're going from Jersey, now we're in, you know, the middle of Pakistan, and then I loved how Sana, you know, as the episode evolves, it kind of reveals that like she's not necessarily just the, you know, the wise old lady with all the answers who they've come to see. It's very much about fixing a broken relationship between the mother and daughter, while Kamala kind of does her own soul searching in Karachi as well.
I totally agree, and I think, you know, on the standpoint of Karachi, like, it's so colorful. The lighting that they sort of work throughout this show to sort of, even though we're in one minute we're in Jersey, 1 minute we're in Karachi, but the lighting still stays the same. It's very fluid throughout the between the episodes, and I think, you know, it makes even more sense when I found out that the director, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, is actually Pakistani-Canadian, which is really cool, and she was born in Karachi. So obviously she was the perfect choice to sort of lead this episode and lead these characters into this environment. And yeah, man, Kamala's grandmother is so lovable. She's so instantly charming. I love how she's like, I just came from a party, and just doing the grandma thing of trying to give Kamala all of her jewelry. I don't know, man. I instantly fell in love with her. She's so lovely.
Yeah, I love her too. She's great. Again, perfect casting for as the show continues to do, except for the main character, in my opinion. But going past that, what I had a problem with is how fast her mom seemingly agreed to this trip. Like, I would have liked one scene where the family's talking about this and they decide why they're all of a sudden going to Karachi, because we got none of that. It was Nani talking to Kamala and all of a sudden they're on the plane. So it seemed a bit weird. And also going back to that plane, she didn't have her phone in airplane mode. So I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know how that quite works. I mean, I've never personally traveled to Pakistan, so I don't know if maybe when you're in a different part of the world, if it's okay to use your phone. I don't know. But I will say, in regards to the comment about like her mom being on board with it, I think we do sort of find out a little bit later in the episode that we'll talk about of like kind of what Muniba's intentions are with this trip, and why she's probably so okay to go with it, especially if her grandma or if her mother is reaching out with these, you know, stories and theories and ideas about seeing a vision or something. Who knows, right? But I agree with you. I think it would have been nice to have seen that.
Just some explanation, because again, they're supposed to be somewhat fractured at this point. So it just seems kind of odd for them to drop everything and go, despite especially what happened at the wedding.
Right, but right, it could have been a few days away from the wedding, maybe a week away from the wedding. But I will say I do love how she instantly refers to Muniba as Muni. It's just like, you know, yes, they've got that sort of thing going on between them, but it's the same thing with Kamala and her mom in that moment of sort of having that distance. So it's clearly it's you know, generational, and I think I love that they both share a sense of creativity, right? Like, we get to that art studio and we see where Kamala gets it from. The intro of this series, initially, the first thing we see is like Kamala's papercraft and her drawings and her doodles, and I love that it comes from her grandmother. I just think it's so nice.
Also, one of those pictures in her art studio looked like the aliens we saw in that first episode when she activates her powers. Like, it looked like
Kamala actually touches it at one point. You're right. Yeah. Interesting. Last couple things I want to point out. There's the signage that they pass by. It says Karachi, the city of lights, which I think is a bit of foreshadowing to the Noor dimension being the light dimension, which I just thought was kind of neat in this sequence. And again, Kamala just sort of starstruck by you know, this sort of this whole new experience of seeing Karachi, probably for something she hasn't seen in a really long time.
Yeah, because much of it is actually from Karachi, if I'm not mistaken. What I'm reading here is that, like, it does, in some ways, the stuff that they captured does represent Karachi. So some of that might have actually been, you know, footage that was captured, just maybe not with them there.
With them in it,
surprised at some of those B shots, like of the city rolls and cityscapes, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just to kind of give more of the culture, because it doesn't make very much sense to say that you're going to film something or a story takes place without some context.
Yeah, like, they definitely show some landmarks, right? Like, I definitely think there is some B-roll there. And I just wanted to quickly say the title sequence with the different versions of the Miss Marvel logo had one that was burned into some naan bread, and that was dope. That was freaking awesome. I want them to do more food in the MCU. If pizza balls, you know, if we get pizza balls and naan bread and just get all that stuff in the MCU, it's delicious. So anyways, Kamala wakes up after a nightmare of the night of the wedding by her cousins, and her mother asks her to come and visit and not be weird. While wearing jeans and sweating more than Kevin does at a convention, Kamala learns that her mother was a bit of a rebel back in the day. And then she does some shopping with her cousins where Owace calls her an ABCD. And then after some not so great directions, she finds her way to Karachi Station, where Sana first entered Karachi. She crosses a sign that says no trespassing while donning her new mask that Bruno gave her. And while while admiring a mural, she's confronted by a young man with a red mask. And he says he sensed her Noor, and the two begin to fight. He sees that she has the bangle and mentions Aisha, and the two flee Karachi Station security because he tells Kamala there is someone he wants her to meet. So guys, what did we think of this confrontation with Kareem as a member of the Red Daggers?
Confrontation was cool and all. I just am starting to get tired of how naive Kamala Khan is. First off, with that mask, she's still wearing the blatantly American outfit, walking to this
same
no
clothes she was
trespassing
wearing
sign with just a mask and a ponytail. It's just like there's a bit of like there's some more thinking needs to go into this. Like, people saw
Sure.
you walk there. It's just, it's kind of like Obi-Wan talking at the terminal level of annoying writing to me.
Right. It's similar to, like, I think in the Obi-Wan series where they just hide
Tala,
Leia,
what she's talking.
or I was going to say
yeah,
hiding
that,
Leia
yeah.
underneath a trench coat.
Either instance is the same sort of writing. It's like, that's annoying. I feel like someone should
Yeah.
have noticed that.
Yeah, and it's like you can't necessarily just be like, well, she's a young girl or she's not used to being a superhero. She's read so many comic books. She should know better. She should know
She
better.
should know the basics
Yeah.
of being a hero and putting on the costume. Like, be
Totally.
a bit less obvious.
Right. I did think, though, with the fight scene, like, I did like how, even though she doesn't really know how to use or control her powers, she kind of is using them instinctually. Like, it's just happening without her even trying, which I thought was really good. And I love the banter. I mean, Justin, are you stoked? Ninja Turtles is now canon in the MCU. You know, they
I am
exist.
very thrilled with that. There's a couple other, I think, pop culture references throughout, but yeah, I think the confrontation itself was interesting, and yeah, Nate, I noticed the same thing. Her comfort with her powers seems to be coming through very inherently as almost a defense mechanism.
Yeah,
like she's not focusing too much on it. Like, man, she stretched her arms and punched that guy right in the face. Like, it was crazy. So
totally.
I just think it was cool that how Kareem is so well trained to handle this type of thing. So I think that was a really cool introduction for the character too, to show how strong he is to fight just as a human against someone with these superhuman powers. So I thought that's
Totally.
a really, really cool way of introducing the character.
He's also like, I love how they do keep bringing stuff over from the comics and then adjusting it, right? Like, we've now got, he's not the Red Dagger. He's a part of the group called the Red Daggers. And I thought that was really cool. And its character is perfectly, other than that, it's very much exactly what he was from the comics. It'll be interesting to see if, I mean, again, we only have 2 more episodes to go, so I don't know if they are going to do the thing in the comics where, like, he comes back to the States and sees her again and works with her again. But I did want to go back to that banter. He references Donkey Kong, and it's kind of funny because Kamala was actually technically inspired by a video game to start creating those platforms. It was, it was a more modern, iPhone game, but it was still kind of funny that was there. And then, I mean, come on, guys. The line, do all masked Americans have superpowers? And just, well, how do you know I'm not Canadian? Like, it's just...
yeah, for sure.
So good. I just, you see her smiling in that moment, and it just sort of felt like I was like, oh, that's Iman Vellani smiling in that moment. Not even Kamala. Like, that's her just stoked that she got to say that line. And I think that was really cool. And then the Ant-Man mural was awesome to see. I love that art style. That was super cool.
Yeah, I paused it for a good, couple minutes just so I could take it all in, because it was only in that one scene that you could see all of it, but it was really cool.
And it's actually credited on the mural as I think it's by Saira Hussein after Adrian Alfana, who is actually one of the artists who worked on the comics, which is kind of a neat thing to see. And speaking of the comics, the QR code, these Disney Plus series that since, well, I guess the past 2 with Moon Knight and now this one, every week we're getting a QR code. So we're trying to shout them out whenever we see them. This one I saw with the guy who takes her picture. He's on the stand. You can find that QR code. He takes her photo, and if you scan it, it takes you to the comic book that introduces us to the Red Dagger, where Kamala goes to Karachi in the comic book. So it's really awesome. It's just cool how Marvel keeps doing this stuff to show us, like, hey, like, not only are we going to reference this material, we're going to straight up just give it to you to get people interested and maybe get more people reading these comic books. I mean, it kind of is also a plug for what is it called?
Marvel Unlimited?
For Marvel Unlimited. But yeah, man. Anyways, so then we see Kareem lead Kamala through a Chinese restaurant, through a secret entrance into the home base of the Red Daggers, who are a secret group who protect their people from threats of the unseen. Kareem introduces her to Waleed, played by famous Bollywood actor and director Farhan Akhtar, who explains to her that the clandestines and Aisha are from another realm that runs parallel to their own. he goes on to show her that if the clandestines use the bangle to tear down the veil between realms, they'll unleash their world unto ours until there is nothing left of it. Then he reads the inscription on the bangle that says, "What you seek is seeking you." So, guys, a few things here. What do you think of the Noor dimension possibly taking over the MCU dimension? Do you think it's the whole world at stake here or just Karachi? And what do you think the inscription means for Kamala?
I definitely think it's the whole world. I mean, that whole map overlay wasn't just focusing on Karachi. That's what the zoom in was, that we saw 3D, but the whole map was covered by different shaped land masses in that newer dimension. So yeah, it's definitely a worldwide threat that I think is localized to Karachi. Like, that's where it's starting type thing.
Totally. It
Again,
sounds kind of
into the City of Lights. So
absolutely, and it sounds like an incursion, right? Like we just got Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I'm wondering if the Noor dimension, even tying it back to that movie and spoilers for Multiverse of Madness, but the end. Well, I guess we have spoilers covering us for the entire MCU at this point, right? So, the Noor dimension. I'm wondering if it's the opposite of the dark dimension, right? Because it's the light dimension. So I'm wondering if they're like trying to say like this is the exact opposite of, because I would kind of play into the themes of good versus evil and what have you, right? So I don't know. I think that would be kind of neat if that was the case. And as for the quote, "What you seek is seeking you," I kind of think it's referring to the fact that Kamala, like her mom, her grandmother, is seeking her own identity, and she's kind of caught between her American culture, her Pakistani heritage, and now that she's a jinn, obviously that doesn't make things clearer. But like, I don't know, like the bangle helps Kamala create light. Light is used to reveal stuff you seek. So I think it's just like a little reminder that Kamala should keep going, and that like her identity will reveal itself to her if she just sort of waits.
But isn't it also just that the light is in her? Like we've already gotten the hint in, I think, episode 2 where Bruno says, the bangle just activated something inside of you.
Right.
So what she's seeking is inside of her, right? It is this powerful being. She's trying to understand it more because she doesn't understand it. But yeah, I feel like it is very much talking about what is already inherently in her that she doesn't know. Right, that she doesn't know, and this is very much that journey, as you said, self-identity and self-discovery, to kind of unravel that mystery and understand more.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys have really touching interpretations of that. I went a bit nerdier and was trying to think of how this could connect to the Marvels project coming out, and I was thinking that, again, they mentioned that you need 2 bangles or 2 of them earlier in the series. So like, what if the other the bangles are constantly drawn to each other, and the other one maybe being in Kree hands, that's how Captain Marvel finds her way to Kamala, or like having to come there is because the bangles are drawn together. That was just my takeaway from that, is because, again, I see a bangle like that in Marvel, and I'm like, there's got to be another one somewhere. So
For sure.
And I think
there has to be.
I think that also, we talked, Darcy, last week about the ideas of this being connected to the 10 rings and Shang-Chi, and of course at the very end of Shang-Chi, we got the end credit sequence of literally the rings calling out to something. So you're right. Maybe they are even more connected in the sense that maybe they are a direct link to each other. And I think, this might be a bit of a reach, but I think we got another, obviously the 10 Rings logo being on the floor last week was obviously a direct link, but I think we got kind of a subtle sort of connection to Shang-Chi. The Chinese restaurant that the secret base is in is called ABC Restaurant, which, could just be nothing, but also the fact that John says he speaks ABC to Sean in that movie. I just thought, like, American-born Chinese, like, maybe we've got a little hint there to say, like, yeah, these two worlds are more connected than we think. And it would make a lot of sense given kind of how the characters are kind of similar in between Sean and Kamala.
I gotta say that that elaborate oven setup to get into the hideout seemed like a very big waste of space. That was such a long hallway.
Yes, a little bit too long. You don't need that much hallway, do you?
Yeah, no, it just go back like 2 or 3 ovens, not 12 ovens. Like it just
Right.
they were walking for so long and it was so slow.
Yeah.
It's not practical for quick getaways or quick hiding. Like
And not practical. They're not practical for that kitchen either. You got to imagine, like, if they're in the middle of a busy night, as I'm sure it could get on the streets of Karachi.
yeah, you lose that stove for 5 minutes at least as it opens and then slowly closes behind them. Like it was a bit over the top in my opinion.
Yes, sorry, we can't make that dish for you. Our oven is currently, down a
In a
hallway.
wall.
In a wall. Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, listen. Then we switch things up. We see the DODC Supermax prison where the clandestines are being kept, and literally they cut to the DODC, and I was like, why are we here? And I'm like, oh yeah, the clandestines. I completely forgot about them. They managed to escape from the 2 guards, by the way, 2 guards who are holding them for this Supermax prison, whatever. And then they obviously escape. And Najma tells them, let Kamran go. He made his choice, and now he has to live with it. So, really quickly, guys, they did Kamran dirty here. Do you think he's going to team up now with Kamala? Do you think that's kind of his arc going forward? He's going to redeem him, or he's going to come back as a good guy, or he always was a good guy? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you'd hope so, but it also could go the other way where he wants to redeem himself in his family's eyes and maybe turns his back on Kamala. I can see both happening. What really bugged me is how come they always keep the weapons so close to where they're storing the bad guys? Because if I was in charge of that thing, I'd be like, okay, they're going on this side of the prison. We'll put the weapons on the other side of the prison. So if they have to get them, we'll have more chances to stop them. That just didn't line up for me again.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the weakest moment of the episode, and
maybe of the series.
It literally as probably of the series. But I think that again, as the way you described it, Nate, it's that moment where you're like, why am I here? Why am I leaving the central story that I'm more interested in to see this threat, these clandestines walking down some hallway that looks like it was just like an afterthought of a shot.
Yeah.
Right? Like to just kind of stage very quickly, like we need to remind the audience that there is a threat. That's what this scene really served. And yeah, it just takes you out. Like once that was done, I was like, okay, now we're back in Karachi. Like they didn't even stay too long on that moment to really do anything with it other just than to reveal that, they're going their separate ways. Yeah. Right? He's on his own, and that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is a moment where, and we talked about this offline regarding, moments with Obi-Wan and some of these Disney Plus live action series of where I was just kind of like, if only we just got more time with these characters. Like imagine an episode where we get to see them escape the DODC. We learn about the intricacies between their group. We learn more about Najma, and we get to see like an actual threat. We get to see their power. We get to see them break out of this Supermax prison that frickin', it's supposed to be impenetrable to get out of, and that they just, it's a hallway. Like, I get it. Obviously, COVID restrictions and what have you maybe affected that, but it was so cheesy. It was so, like cartoonish in a way where I was just like, I don't want that kind of cheese in my MCU. Give me the Disney live action TV series cheese that this series has kind of brought to the MCU, but I can so do without the sort of cartoony villain that's just kind of silly. It was just really didn't work for me.
Maybe another episode, but I feel like at the end of the day, it's just highlighting that this threat feels very inserted for the sake of kind of really serving a purpose as to who or what Kamala Khan is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the real purpose. So let's just keep the story focused on that. Like I really don't think that they're going to necessarily, at least at this point, they don't seem like they're that important. I feel like this is going to come and go and it's going to open a dimension, but I don't think these people are going to be the ones that are going to be her villain in future series or movies. I just think that they're just a stepping stone for Kamala to learn more about her. That's right. All the purpose that they're serving here rather than just being this looming threat.
What I think would have gone a bit further too is instead of having them like be in the middle of this supermax prison, if we could have just had it at the end of last episode where we see them get away from DODC custody while they're still in New Jersey, just kind of break out of the vans in a quick little action sequence and have them run away, because that would, in my opinion, that would have again landed better than them just again clumsily breaking out of this supermax prison by knocking two guards out and then running up a set of stairs. Like, it didn't seem that hard, and kind of just very silly.
Yeah, and I will say, I think to your point though, Justin, they don't seem integral. I think Kamran is going to be more integral, and I think it's kind of strange though that they would leave him behind. I think there's going to be obviously some story reason that they need to have separated those characters, but it doesn't quite make sense because Najma revealed to Kamala last week that Kamran and Kamala are the only ones that are able to access the full power of the bangle because of the fact that they are of the Jinn heritage as well as both worlds, right, as well as Earth. So obviously Kamala's not going to do what they want, right? And then so having Kamran with them would be kind of important. So I don't know if like Najma's using some sort of like reverse psychology, like you said, Darcy, to try and get Kamran to like to come around and do right by his family and his mother who've protected him, and maybe she's trying to manipulate him in that way. Again, I think there's stuff that was cut out of these episodes with these characters that maybe would have given us a better sense of her intentions and her strategies, but they're just not there, and it's making her character and all the clandestines just not that compelling. Yeah. Let's get back to it here. Back at the house, Kamala finds Sana hiding from Muniba, who's on a cleaning rampage, as she calls it. And she reminds Kamala that even at her age, like Kamala, she too feels like she's stuck between worlds, figuring out who she is. Kamala asks her if she thinks she'll ever figure it out, to which Sana says, "What's the rush?" Kareem messages Kamala and invites her out to a bonfire where they enjoy some biryani, while Faizan sings in Urdu and plays his guitar, and they kind of like share like have eyes for each other. It's like, whoa, Kamala's just getting all the dudes in this series. It's crazy. Meanwhile,
she's collecting all of the boys.
She's like Infinity Stones. She's just going to collect all the dudes. Meanwhile, back at the house, Muniba and Sana discuss the idea of her coming to live with them in America. And I think, Darcy, that's Muniba's intention here.
Intention.
Right? Yes. It came a bit too late. Again, the beginning of the episode, I was stuck wondering, how come this happened so quickly? And it would have been a little 1 minute scene of them talking with her dad in the room as well and getting his take on the thing. It just would have given me a bit more.
Yeah, totally. I hear you. Muniba tells her she was never trying to get away from her. It's just that she needed a change. She needed to get away from Sana's fantastic theories, as she calls them. She says she didn't need her stories. She needed her mother. And then this is immediately followed up, and I love how it's immediately followed up. It's followed up with Kamala coming home and instantly noticing that her mom isn't okay. And of course, Muniba says she's fine, and the two share a cute moment where Kamala can't chew a toffee. And I think it's just interesting that Muniba in this moment is still kind of holding back from sort of telling her daughter what's going on. She's trying to protect her from that understanding
selfishly. Selfishly, right?
Totally.
She's
but I still think it's one of those moments where, again, just, I don't know, it was lovely, it was sad, and it was just so perfectly contrasted from the scene just before it. What did you guys think? Obviously, we speculated last week that Muniba knows more than she's letting on, but here she still refers to her mother's stories as like fantastical theories. Do you guys think she's still in the dark on this stuff, or do you think she's hiding the truth in fear of what it could mean for Kamala?
I think she knows. I just think that she doesn't believe it, right? She thinks of them as stories, right? And then I think what's going to be the turning point is when she sees Kamala using these powers in a way to help people, and she knows that it's Kamala, then she's going to start to kind of maybe reveal, right? I don't know. It could be something that she has seen it in effect, and she's witnessed something that might allude to like her understanding. But I feel like again, the way she describes it as fantastical stories and whatnot just means that she never saw it. She never witnessed it. Right. And I think it's also really interesting too, because in a lot of ways, people's faith in religion is very much based on what has come before, and this sort of belief of the stories that have happened in the past that no one saw. They're just stories, right? So it's really interesting that we have a layer of that really does talk about faith and the importance of faith, because that is a form of identity, a way that we, connectively shape ourselves is through faith and what we believe in. Yeah. And I think that is in itself very much a subtext in this scenario, in this whole story, in this whole series, is very much that, and that idea of what we understand and what we believe and how that defines us at our core. So I think you're absolutely right, Nate. The fact that it goes from the grandmother to the mother, then from mother to daughter, we see this sort of generational domino effect of how their relationships are strained based on what they believe. Yeah, I don't know. I think that they're very intelligently playing with these layers of story that just tell a deeper meaning, I feel like. I don't know.
Yeah, of course.
This is where, again, another issue with this episode comes out to me, because the end of the last episode, Nani's like, come here, you have to come here to figure out the answers type thing. And that way, that may imply to me, at least, that she kind of knew what was going on. But as we see in this episode,
she doesn't.
She doesn't know anything, and she's not being any help. So it's like, why is she so sure that she needs to come here? Unless it was all just to meet the Red Daggers. It was just a bit like, again, I'm having a hard time believing a lot of like how they're telling this particular story, which again, the character growth is amazing. It's just the plot development is suffering in some areas for me.
But is it not the ending? Like we'll get there, but is what happens at the cliffhanger here at the end, is that not the reason why she was meant to come to Karachi? And that, again, I agree with you. I don't think Nani knows anything about what's going on. She's seen the vision, and she just knows that Kamala, I think, intrinsically has that ability. She knows that she can see that as well. So I don't know. There are some holes. I agree.
Just very sure of herself off of some visions to be like, come here, come my granddaughter. Like,
and
very
I think that's purposeful. I have a theory as to why that's purposeful, but we're not at theories yet.
We'll get to it later. Then
we'll get to it later. Yeah, no, it's okay. I definitely hear what you're saying, but I think her grandmother is so. She's just so based off of her experiences and what she's gone through. She's going to believe that, and she's going to, get them coming to Karachi as soon as possible with every fiber of her being. She wants them there. And it's interesting. Muniba's distaste of her grandmother, now we kind of get that it came from the stories that her mother told her all those years, right? And just how much that affected her. And I will say, the speech, man, that her grandmother gives her here, it's just so well done. And like we were talking, like all three of these women have struggled with and are struggling with the same thing, which is finding their identity as they're split down the middle between two worlds, like the veil between our dimension and the Nora dimension. Like I think that is where the writing is in its strongest. And, we see between their past and their future, that's another aspect to it. And I loved her response to Kamala, where she's just like, do you think you're ever going to figure out? And her grandma responds with, but what's the rush? And I think that comes from, her grandmother recognizing that, like, the longer they have to sort of work on this puzzle, the longer they get to stay together. And I thought that was really, really lovely. And I like Kareem's text showing up in the sky kites again, continuing from episodes 1 and 2. And then the bonfire, you see yet another sort of pocket moment for Kamala, where we've gotten these throughout the series, where she's truly happy, right? Because for a brief moment, she's kind of settled into one of the multiple sides of her identity, and she can kind of just relax, right? Like she can embrace her culture in that moment and just sort of be there and not have to really worry about anything else in the world, and just sort of say, okay, well, I'm going to try this side of me right now, and not really worry about anything else. But at the end of the day, that's not just who she is. There's so much more to it. So I think, honestly, these moments, these 3 moments back to back, were probably my favorite moments in the episode.
I liked the moment on the beach when they're eating biryani out of a bag. Like I've never eaten biryani out of a bag.
I want to try it now, man.
Out of a bag,
Yeah.
biryani is delicious. It
Yeah.
is so good, but out of a bag would be interesting. But again, to think that in episode 2 we had the westernized version of kids socializing and getting together, and seeing that juxtaposed with kids in Pakistan who are being very much like the Western kids. Like, I think what the show does really well, and I think again even in Moon Knight it did really well, is it didn't try to pin Pakistan or Karachi in a way that feels dated or stereotypical. It actually really brought in a lot more of the hybrid Western and Pakistan, and then in Moon Knight, the Egyptian culture into it, to really show that, like, yeah, it's not about it being ornate and so historical and protected. It is about everyday people living their lives, like as they walk the streets of Karachi and stuff like that. I thought that was really interesting.
You go. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're just doing those sort of things, the same sort of things that they would do anywhere, just in their country. And it's a bit different, and that's fine. And I like that. It in a way, it's drawing more comparisons between all of these different cultures that we see in a way that makes it relatable.
Totally. Yeah, man. Let's keep going here. We then get to see Kamala back at the Red Dagger's base, where we see her learning more about her abilities. She receives a koti, and as she asks if she's a Red Dagger now, and that's that blue outfit that she gets. And then out of nowhere, Najma and the clandestines, they must have used fast travel or something in this video game, because they just are randomly now in Karachi, and they drop in and they attack. They fill the room with smoke, which Waleed uses to his advantage to take out a couple of them, followed by him escaping along with Kareem and Kamala. They flee in a tuk-tuk, while managing to avoid taking out an entire family on a bike, which I love that there was just a whole family with a baby all on one bike. And then they sort of create this ramp, causes a truck to fly in the air, thus rescuing them. So guys, what did we think of this chase sort of down the alleyways here? And I mean, we kind of already covered this, so we don't have to really dive into it too deep, but like the clandestines performance here, like it just, I don't know, man. Kind of was just like,
well, they're just muscle. They're just the Again, they're the physical threat. We've seen them twice be more of a twice in this episode, and in the instance of episode 3 with the wedding, and now here they're just the threat. They're just that's it. Now they're the goons. That's the only purpose that they serve. Exactly, they're the goons, right? Yeah. But I love this chase scene though. I think it's so much fun to do a chase scene like this. I think of the other chase scene that we got that was really great in Hawkeye, with a car chase scene, sort of very similar. And we've gotten a few throughout the MCU, but I love that this is again taking place in a very culturally unique part of the world. It feels very chaotic. It stays very grounded the entire time as well. Like I liked the idea that it didn't get sort of too superhero-esque. You know what I mean? It very much in the same vein as Hawkeye too, where it stays very tamed and grounded to keep things a little bit more not believable, but more situational based on where they are, right?
But it goes to show, right? Like, again, this is the next scene with the clandestines after the dark hallway escape, and you just see how shifting to being in Karachi and this environment makes this so much better. And again, it's interesting because, like, yes, you want to have a really interesting environment. I do think that the villains and the threat should also be holding my attention, but I kept, looking around and looking at the world of Karachi, and the areas around them more than I was looking at the action. I do want to say I do love the idea that Bruno is probably going to turn the koti that she receives from Waleed into like her new costume. I think that's really cool. She'll always remember where she comes from. And I do think it was really hilarious to see Kamala making the same mistakes when she reversed backwards in the truck trying to escape, just like in episode 1 during her driving lesson. I thought that was a fantastic sort of callback.
One of my main issues, again, with the Red Dagger's hideout was such an elaborate door. Why do they have a glass ceiling? That just screams invade us through the roof. Like,
Yeah.
it seems a bit odd just to be like, yeah, we're going to be in hiding, but we need sunlight. We need a lot of natural light in this room so we can see our secret plans.
Yeah.
But the chase scene was great. I did enjoy the environment and a lot of the moments for fun and stuff like that. I even enjoyed the callback to her reversing. Despite not me liking the original one, I'm like, oh, she is still a kid and doesn't know what she's doing. So
Yeah.
it was fun. Again, a lot of cool moments. And again, the bad guys seemed more entertaining here, but it was also, how come they can't keep up with these like 2 kids? They are superhuman people. They can't keep up with a kid and another kid. Like, it's just weird.
And that's again, it just felt 80s cartoon cheesy, not 90s cartoons, because those freaking rock. The X-Men cartoons are awesome, but no, like very just sort of like, even to the point where in a very villainous cartoony voice, Najma at one point says, "Don't let them get away," and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I was just like, no, like give us. Like, I want villains that are scary. I want villains that are intimidating. I don't want these thugs. It feels like they're reminding me a lot of like the characters from Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like, there's just kind of that group where they're just kind of forgettable and not really doing much.
I think this is,
I don't know, man. It just, to me, it kind of feels like they're thugs, including Najma, and they're working for a bigger bad character. And if that's the case, that's totally fine. Again, we've only seen them now for 2 episodes. But to me, I'm just like, I don't know. I wanted Najma to be this leader within this group that was actually intimidating and threatening, but she's just, none of them are really that scary.
Well,
I don't know.
If you think about it, it's very much the thing about these Marvel Disney Plus series is that their villains are very much goons who work for someone else who's the real threat. Pointing out, too, the idea of a big baddie that's on the loom, like in the Falcon and Winter Soldier, we have these, like, terrorists that are operating for Power Broker, Tracksuit Mafia, and Hawkeye lead to the Kingpin. They were definitely the goons of that. They were far more interesting, though, than I find these bad guys. Yeah. I don't think they were necessary. I honestly think what would have been better is just to keep this sort of government, this is it DODC? Is that what they are?
Yeah.
Yeah, just keep them as this threat that's trying to track her down and understand who she is as she tries to figure it out. But she's trying to figure out before, to better understand herself, right? Like, I don't know. It just seems like they're very shoehorned in, which just means that they feel really unnecessary.
Let's get to the ending of this episode here. Eventually, Kamala and Kareem see Najma and Waleed on the balcony. Waleed sacrifices himself to take out the thug behind them, but then is stabbed in the back as he falls to his death, which, by the way, felt very Star Wars A New Hope. I'm just going to say it right there. It felt like, I was just like, that's Obi-Wan right there. And then during the skirmish, Kareem kills Adam, which drives Najma to say enough as she stabs at Kamala. Kamala blocks the blade with her bangle, which rips a hole in space around her, causing her to fly back into it. When she wakes up, she realizes she's traveled back in time to the night of the partition in 1947, and she climbs up onto a train in complete disbelief of what just happened. And that brings us to the end of our episode, as well as our prediction segment for this series, for what we think might be revealed in the next episode and the future of this series and its characters, which for this Watch Club we call, this may be a stretch, but... So guys, what just happened? What do you think this is? Is it a vision? Did she actually travel through time? And what does this mean for her going forward?
Very Moon Knight, right? In the sense that it's...
Oh, the 4th episode? Right yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right? So it does have that same sort of effect where, we've now shifted the story for the series, which looks like it's going to lead to more of a self-discovery again. We're now in the past. We're going to learn more, I think, about... We're probably going to see her grandmother, right? Mm-hmm. Or her great-grandmother to understand a little bit more. But yeah, I'm actually kind of I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about where you think the show's going, because I don't really have that much to stretch. I'm actually really intrigued with what they're doing with her background and her history. So yeah, where the show's going, I'm not really sure, because this all feels very different from the comics.
Mm-hmm.
This may be a stretch, but I'm sure Kang's going to pop up and help her get back to her time, because she's clearly time traveled. Like, this is way more vivid than any of the visions she's had before. It's so much more muted in color and stuff like that, which would really set the tone for what's happening at that moment. So I totally think she's back in time. And again, the Kang thing is just a stretch, because
you think Kang?
I'm saying master time travel. I feel like he's going to notice someone's at a place and get him back, or maybe we'll TVA stuff. I have no idea, but like,
Jonathan,
I was not expecting this at all, so I'm very confused.
That would be a stretch, but I'd be really stoked to see it. Listen, this may be a stretch, but I absolutely believe Kamala traveled through time here. I think the bangle can not only bring her to the Noor dimension, but also to the past. And in the comic books, in the later series, she's even brought into the future on another planet at one point. I won't say too much about that. But, my thoughts are that her grandmother, the night that she was lost, did follow a trail of stars. It was a trail of stars provided by Kamala. I think Kamala is going to be
Harry Potter all over again.
Dude, I think she's got to close the loop. I think Kamala is going to be, there's going to be moments where, like, I think she's worried that her grandmother's going to see her. Like, she's afraid that it'll mess up the timeline or something, because she knows that, like, her pop culture references, I bet she's going to bring up Back to the Future at one point. Because even Bruno is designed just like
Marty McFly.
Marty McFly, thank you, brain fart. Just like Marty McFly in that series with the vest and everything. And so I think her grandmother, I think she is still going to see her. And I think, we already know she has such a good memory of that night because of all the paintings that she's made. I could guarantee there's a painting of Kamala Khan somewhere in that rubbish, maybe that we didn't see, but that might be brought up. And I think that, it was her that helped her get back to the train in that moment. And so I think she's going to close the loop and learn more about herself. I think this is really where we're going to see Kamala recognize who she is, what she's seeking. And I think episode 5 is going to be where she becomes Miss Marvel through that action. And I think that's such a crazy cool idea that I really hope they go with, because I would just love to see her be that part. And it's just funny how at the dinner table, she was the one that completed that story without knowing that she's the one that completes that story. So I don't know, man. I think that would be really cool.
That's very cool. Yeah, I definitely, I hope that's what happens, because that's the best option for it. And I think it would enrich what that story means and the experience of that story to her. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a really validating journey, if you will, right?
Yeah.
To have her go through that. But I also think it is cool too, because if that is the case, that in the way they go, and it does make a lot of sense, that also is very Moon Knight for episode 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
In the sense of how that episode kind of pivots itself as a sort of internal self journey for Mark Spector and Stephen Grant to kind of share more and become closer in bond. And here in episode 5, it seems like very much what you described kind of mirrors that. And I think that actually makes a lot more sense if they do it that way. Yeah. But yeah, these are fantastic theories. I hope Kang shows up in the end and ends up helping her, though, to get back to her time. That would be dope too.
What would bother me if they go that route is the fact that now we have nothing to go on with about her grandmother. Like, if she does, or sorry, her great grandmother. So if she does end up helping her grandmother get back on the train, I hope we see at least the great grandmother, like Aisha, fighting with the other clandestine, and see that moment of betrayal that then leads Kamala to be like, well, I have to help my grandma get back. Because again, if they just do it where they don't leave that train area and we never see Aisha at all and it's all Kamala, I'd be a bit let down, because again, we've been built up as Aisha being the one who used this power originally and then who made this betrayal.
And we only saw her once, right?
Yeah, and we've only seen her the one time. So I think it'd be very upsetting to me if we don't get to see that betrayal moment. I feel like that is what she's back in time, is to see what the great sacrifice her great grandmother made to save her grandmother type thing, or her family going forward. So,
but dude, the line where Najma's like, I don't, well, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I don't help people who betrayed me. Maybe it means,
what if it was Kamala?
What if it was Kamala as well, dude? Like, Aisha could be there, but Kamala, dude,
that's what I was thinking.
Right?
What if Kamala ends up fighting her great grandmother, right?
Whoa.
And
Okay.
right, trying to stop her, and then I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez, now I'm excited for next week's episode.
I'm very excited for next week's episode. And I think I'm more excited for next week's episode than I was for portions of this week's episode. So, guys, let's get to our overall impressions of the episode and our final score, which we're going to be rating on a scale of 1 to 5 daggers. Justin, let's start with yourself.
Yeah, well, as I was saying at the top of the show, each episode of this series has added to the family story at the center, while mixing in so many elements of the mythology and actual history and culture just into the overall plot. And this episode again continues that and really dials it up, featuring Karachi as the backdrop for episode 4. Sharmeen keeps the action grounded while also giving it a bit of scale there, with the environment and the sort of cultural infusion that takes place in this episode. Iman Vellani delivers in both the action and the emotional parts of this story, as we see the 3 generations, as you were mentioning, Nate, kind of deal with their own conflicts one-on-one. And the episode continues the themes of relating to identity and even just the idea of sort of, as you mentioned, Nate, like kind of live in 2 places and how that really just connects back to your own identity and how we identify ourselves based on our homes and, coming from 2 different cultures and being displaced, especially with Nani's story. I think that, again, this all taking place in Karachi really made it purposeful and meaningful. I do think the downfall of this episode, other than these clandestine villains who really are meaningless and I don't think of them as a threat. I'm more enthralled and interested in Kamala's journey for self-discovery, for her inevitable Ms. Marvel title and how she gets there. I think that they can stay focused on that. This episode, though, much like last week's episode, I found had a lot of layers that kind of give it a bit of an overstuffed feel. Like there's a lot going on here, right? Like there's a lot of explanation, and it does seem very crammed in, especially from last week's episode into here, with a lot of the mythology and all of these other different sort of things. And I'm getting a little confused. And I always have said that Marvel does a really great job of trying to like insert these things very systematically. I got to say, in the series, though, it does feel like they're really trying to like push it, like amp it up so that they can just get to the Marvels and solidify a lot of things so that Ms. Marvel is just in the cinematic universe. I wish there was a little bit more treatment to how this all ties together. But that being said, the cliffhanger at the end of this episode definitely had me interested. She's in a whole different time period. We know where she is because we've heard the stories, as you guys both pointed out. It looks like she could be either confronting or meeting her great grandmother to kind of learn more. And I love the pitch, Nate, of her potentially being the stars that guide her grandmother back to safety. I love that. And I think that just that brings the whole story full circle. I hope that happens. But yeah, I really do think that the strength of this episode is the focus on culture, family, and identity. And for that reason, I'm going to be giving this episode a 4 out of 5 daggers, because it hit the mark with all the culture. Alrighty.
Darcy, how about yourself?
Well, I'm sure it's kind of obvious from what I've said about this show, or this episode at least. It left me questioning a lot of the choices they made for story and plot development. While I did enjoy a lot of the character growth development we got, they are really good at focusing on characters in this show, which is very nice. That we're getting a lot of background. But like Justin said, that it's a bit overstuffed. Like the clandestine villains are unnecessary. I agree with Justin where the DODC having just one bad villain trying to hunt them down would have been a lot more focused and easier to work with, whereas trying to tell the backstory of these clandestines while weaving in the DODC storyline seems a bit muddled at points. And again, some of even the acting of Kamala Khan and then some of the writing feels very Disney Channel again to me. I said that last week, but this episode feels almost more so, where it's just, again, over the top writing or some plot holes that are very gaping in my opinion, and kind of take away from the enjoyment of the episode. So definitely one of the lower scores I've given this series so far, but I think I'm going to be sitting at about a 3 out of 5 daggers for the episode. Because again, I enjoyed a lot of the moments and stuff like that, but I was questioning myself almost as much as I was enjoying.
Interesting. Yeah. I kind of sitting in between you two. I think this episode was interesting for me because I kept, as we said, like I kept wanting to go back to the scenes between Kamala and her family. Like I kept wanting to be like the action scenes come up. I'm like, okay, cool, but like let's go back to Nani's house and let's talk to her and let's have those moments. I love seeing the culture and the vibrancy of Karachi, and I just feel like anytime they did a big fight or the chase sequence, I was kind of taken out of it a little bit. I'm so much more intrigued by her past and her finding herself, and I don't think that's because the action is bad. I think the choreography in the fights is cool. Her powers, her getting better with her powers is cool. But as we've been talking about, these villains just aren't compelling, and it just sort of I just kind of glaze over when they come on the screen. I just don't care. Yeah. And I want to care. I want to care so much more for them. I love some of the intriguing villains that we've gotten in these past series. Agatha, for instance, is just absolutely phenomenal, right? Like U.S. agent, like Wyatt Russell, was incredible. I think, these characters just start to, I just feel like we're missing some sort of element that we should have in this series. And I thought Najma would have been that presence. I think in the first, at the very tail end of the second episode, her sitting in the back of the car and just her voice, I was like, oh, okay, here she is. This is her. And she's just kind of fallen into the background. She kind of just seems like another lackey amongst this group of not so capable bad guys. Again, though, I think there was a lot to this episode I really enjoyed. Some of my favorite sort of family connection moments in the series so far. But I feel like this episode in this series might be, at this point, just struggling a little bit with stuff that might have been cut from the series. I think there's a lot of really weird cuts that happen whenever the clandestines are on screen, where I'm just like, okay, clearly they had more dialogue there or something. So they come off boring. Karachi, again, was awesome. The Canadian references were fantastic. I love it. Give me more Canada Dry. Give me more Kamala just somehow being from Jersey and Canada at the same time. And Kamala's family, and especially her grandmother, brought my score up a bit. But this is also going to be my lowest of the series so far. I'm going to give this episode a 3.5 out of 5 daggers. So right in the middle of you two. I do think if you love learning about Kamala's family history as much as I do, though, I think this next episode is going to frickin' rock. So I'm so stoked for that. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Watch Club for Marvel's Miss Marvel. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts or predictions on the shows we cover in Watch Club, Justin, can you let our listeners know where they can stretch out their fingers to reach us? Sounds weird that way.
It's in the show notes. It's in the show notes. It's just in the show. No, I'm just joking. You can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com, or on Twitter at geekcentricyt, or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric.
True. You totally can. You can use your stretchy fingers or thumbs. I guess people use their fingers and their thumbs on their phones.
Or computers. Some people use computers too.
Yeah, some people use computers. That's true. I forgot about computers. Keep in mind, we also have a ton of other episodes covering the latest and greatest shows and movies out now, including our recent spoiler-free reviews for Only Murders in the Building Season 2, Episodes 1 to 6, which you have to watch Only Murders in the Building. Episode 1 and 2 are out now on Disney+. It's so good. And check out that review to see what we thought of at least up to episodes 1 to 6. We also have the Man from Toronto and the Sea Beast spoiler-free reviews up. And keep your eyes peeled for our Thor Love and Thunder spoiler-free review, which goes up July 5th, coming from Darcy and Justin. I'm very stoked to see what you guys thought of that movie. And we have a ton of interviews as well, like with Disney and Pixar's Lightyear director Angus MacLean, producer Galen Sussman, and composer Michael Giacchino. We also have our interview with directors Adil and Bilal, who directed episodes 1 and 6 of Miss Marvel. And most recently, Justin had the opportunity to sit down with Obi-Wan Kenobi director Deborah Chow and frickin' Anakin Skywalker himself, Hayden Christensen. And there's a really sweet moment between Justin and Hayden where they discuss Star Wars fatherhood. So go give those episodes a listen and a 5-star review if you don't mind. And lastly, you got to check out our latest episode of This Week in Geek, where Justin, Kevin, and we discussed our thoughts on and predictions for Marvel's Hall H panel at this year's San Diego Comic-Con, and we share our thoughts on the reveal of a new Game of Thrones Jon Snow spin-off series. So go check that out. Remember, we drop new episodes of This Week in Geek with our thoughts on the latest news and trailers every single Wednesday. So definitely go check that out. Darcy, Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this week's Watch Club. And as we say,
Cosmic.